do you remember Atlantis? Because my day job is I'm a hypnotist. So what I do is I'm a regression hypnotist, and I take people to the deepest level of trance. I regress them, and then I access their all-knowing higher self. And in that way, I can find out anything about a person. I can find out who they really are, their true purpose, and they can even heal themselves. But what's really interesting is so many people walking the planet today have memories about Atlantis. And what's also very interesting is it doesn't take much to heal the traumas from these time periods that you're going to see throughout this whole weekend. That some people heal so many things just by hearing about these stories, or something, within maybe one of these presentations triggers your memory and you just feel lighter. So I think it's so amazing to do something like this, because my clients under hypnosis have explained that so many of us are back again now to heal this trauma. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me, how I got into this stuff, so you know a little bit about me. I'm the author of these books that you see. My first being a hypnotist, Journey to Atlantis. And I got into all of this stuff by accident. I really was never into any of this stuff at all. In fact, I was in the opposite field. I wanted to be a psychologist. And I went to school to become a psychologist. I graduated in '97 from Northeastern University, and I was so gung-ho to help the world. I mean, I thought I was going to help everyone. Everyone was going to be healed right away. When I did all these, counseling techniques, and I knew all about the medications too, because I was trained in all of them as well. But I wanted to be a psychologist. So I was very scientifically minded. I just had no background of any, spirituality or, past life regression or anything like that. I just thought that the only method that there was to help people was psychology, because I didn't have any background in anything else. And after I graduated, I had an internship where my job was basically to counsel people. And at the time, since I had to learn about different medications, it was also my job to give people medications. And I felt within maybe a week of being there that, and this is my own experience, it's not everyone's experience, but it was my experience for a reason. But I felt within a week of being at this internship that everything that I had learned was a lie. And I say that because I had learned so much in school, and I believed everything I learned. I thought that the counseling techniques were going to help people, and they were going to all of a sudden get better, or, the medications that these people took was, what I had learned was that it was going to be a success story, but I didn't see one success story. In fact, I saw the opposite. I saw people having to take a lot of different medications to counteract the side effects of one medication. And then unfortunately, I saw the downside of some of the pharmaceutical companies where they were testing the residents where I was working. And these residents would wear a wristband, and I was to call the number if there was some major side effect, which there were major side effects of some of these tested pharmaceuticals, unfortunately. And this is in '97. Some of these people were considered so crazy because, get this, they talked to extraterrestrials. That was the protocol in '97. They were put on these heavy duty pharmaceuticals. Now, I didn't believe in extraterrestrials, but I did notice that some of the communication that these residents were having seemed to be kind of beneficial communication. And I didn't understand why this was the only thing that we had to do to help these people. And I just felt so upset that these people that had these issues, these different mental illnesses, the only thing that we had to offer them was these type of medications or these counseling techniques that just didn't seem to go very far. And I just thought there must be something else. There must be something else that I could learn that could help people in a way that worked maybe better. And it took me a long time to find hypnosis. But I remembered from college that in one of my classes, just one, we learned regression hypnotherapy. And I thought, well, it kind of makes sense if you can take people to the root cause of an issue that maybe you could help them in a better way that way. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to really learn hypnosis. Maybe that's the key to helping people. But in order to become a master hypnotist, I had to learn lose weight, quit smoking, and past life regression. And I wasn't really sure how I felt about past life regression because, as I said before, I was not a spiritual person. And I just went along with it because I wanted to become a master hypnotist and I wanted to regress people to their childhood traumas because I really didn't know if I believed in past life regression. But as I was practicing, and I needed to do a lot of these sessions, an interesting phenomenon started happening as I was practicing on people because I literally had to do, it took me 2 years to become a master hypnotist. And I had to do a lot of these past life regressions. And at first, I thought these people were making things up, but I noticed they were healing themselves. These people would come in and just after one session, they would heal themselves. Whereas doing the lose weight, quit smoking hypnosis just seemed like putting a Band-Aid on cancer for some of these people. So that's when I studied with Dr. Brian Weiss, who was really popular at the time because I just tried to find someone who was really good in the field. And I resonated with him because he was also a lot like me, he didn't have a spiritual background. And I liked that he showed how he went from a scientific background to a spiritual background. And I could really relate. And I did his method for many years. And I just felt like something was missing. So I contacted a psychic and she said, this is the easiest reading I have ever done in my entire career because most people have so many different future potentials. And your Sarah is so clear. It's so obvious that, anybody, if you hired any psychic, they would most likely see it. You're supposed to do Dolores Cannon's method and you're going to get really good at it. And you're going to be writing books and speaking about it all over the world. And I don't know if you guys have ever had a psychic reading that you felt was just totally terrible and obviously didn't know you at all. I had that sinking feeling like, oh my God, this psychic totally has me confused. Like I would never write anything, teach anything, speak about anything. I don't know who she thinks I am, but it's totally not me. So I didn't even look up this Dolores Cannon person because I just thought that this psychic was just terrible. And I was just really polite and said, thank you. But I thought she probably had me confused with the person before or after. And there was no way I was going to be doing any of these things. And so it was 6 months later that I had something pop up on, Google, I think, and it was Dolores Cannon. And I just thought, I'll just check this out. And as soon as I did, and I saw her method, just everything in me just clicked. And sure enough, I worked my way up from the bottom level to the very top. And I was teaching with Dolores Cannon's daughter, Julia Cannon, all over the world. I'm also an instructor. And I was teaching with her and I wrote all these books and I'm speaking about all this information. So anyway, how did I get into Atlantis? Just like everything else, it seemed like a complete accident. I was never an expert in Atlantis whatsoever. I still am learning a lot. Like I said, I didn't have a background in any of this stuff. All this came about because I wanted to take the level 3 Dolores Cannon class. And this is a really advanced class. And all of a sudden it was in Florida. And I live in Florida and I didn't want to have to travel around the world to go to one of these classes. So I thought, oh my gosh, I need somebody on the spot to regress. And what you have to do is videotape it and take it to show the class, and then they grade you, and it's a very advanced class. And in fact, when I passed, there were only 12 of us in the whole world. But, and as you can tell, I'm really gung-ho about helping people. I just want to do whatever I can. It's just ingrained in me. But I asked my friend Jen, who had been friends with me for over 10 years, if she would be my volunteer. Now, I had known Jen for over 10 years because she was a teacher at the children's school, and her kids were about the same age as my kids. And we always sat after school and watched our kids play on the playground. Now, Jen was not into any of this stuff. She was a teacher at the school. She was very scientific. And I knew she didn't believe in any of this stuff, because as I was learning so much about past life regression and spirituality through, doing these methods, since I've been doing this since 2009, actually. But as I was learning, I wanted to talk to, my friends about it. And there were only a certain few I could talk to about this stuff. But when I would bring up any kind of spirituality with Jen, she wasn't interested in any of this stuff. I knew she didn't believe in extraterrestrials. I knew she really didn't really know if she believed in past lives. The only part of spirituality she was into was an Esther Hicks book. She believed that there was a possibility about the law of attraction. That was it. So when I asked my friend Jen if she would volunteer, I instantly regretted it, because I thought, why did I ask, of all my friends, this friend who I know isn't even into this stuff, when I could have asked one of my other friends? But I told Jen what I was doing, and I told her it's Dolores Cannon's method, and basically what I do almost every day is I regress someone, take them to the deepest level of trance, and then I'm going to, you might see a past life, or you might not. You might see in between lives or something like that. But if you don't believe in it, just think of it as a story. And then I'm going to access your subconscious, and then we can find out anything you want to about yourself, and you can even heal yourself. And she just looked at me, and I thought, oh my gosh, she already thinks I'm crazy enough. Now she's just going to think I'm even more nuts. But she said she had been looking for something, and she was willing to do this because she hadn't told anyone from the school. And only her husband knew this at the time, but she was suffering from a brain condition called pseudotumor cerebri. And basically what that was this flooding of her spinal fluid in her brain, and it was wreaking havoc on her entire body. There was a huge risk of a stroke, and she was working very closely with a team of specialists at the University of Miami. And they told her there's no cure for this, but the best we can do is put you on heavy duty medications. And with these medications, you might have 20 years to live. Now, Jen, who you can see on the screen, and I'm going to play you a clip from our very first session, because it is extremely powerful. There's one thing for me to just tell you about all this information I get, but I think it's very powerful to let you actually hear it. But anyway, this is Jen. Her face is blurred out for privacy, but the team of specialists told her, like I said, that she only maybe had 20 years. But at this time, when we're doing this, Jen is 32, and she has 3 young children. So when I asked her if she'd be my volunteer, she said she would definitely be my volunteer, because she would try anything to heal herself at that point. She really didn't want to leave her children motherless, since, like I said, there was a huge risk of a stroke. And she was just in so much pain. She was actually losing vision out of one of her eyes. And really, the medication wasn't doing anything. So in her first session, which I'm going to show you this clip because, like I said, it's really interesting. In her first session, when I regressed her and I brought her to the deepest level of trance, she remembered these ancient civilizations. Now, again, this is someone who doesn't believe in these ancient civilizations. She was a teacher at the school, and definitely, as we get into this presentation, it's pretty interesting. She also did not believe in extraterrestrials. So here she is recounting, and we're starting with where she's remembering a tidal wave. So when I regressed her, she remembered first this ancient civilization that her higher self called Lemuria, but at the time they called it Amun. And this civilization was in the South Pacific, and it was a matriarchal society where the women were the leaders. The women were the natural leaders in a lot of these ancient societies, as I've come to understand through regressing so many people, because women carried through the subconscious knowledge of which kind of plants would bring what kind of medicinal properties and which plants would kill you. And they understood this in a way that they never had to teach their daughters. It was just passed through the subconscious. And they were the more compassionate rulers in most of these ancient societies. And because of that, it was a matriarchal society in this place called Lemuria. And Jen, her name was Kala at the time, was part of the ruling party, you would call it. Her mother was the queen of that time, and she was about to be queen. Now, she remembered that it was such a compassionate society and people were so loving towards one another. And it was really interesting to kind of learn the customs, which she could describe in so many details. And she realized that there were these advanced visitors that started showing up, and they came in these really interesting, very advanced travel spheres where you couldn't see the outside of them, but when they landed, they would come out. And they claimed they had been watching the Lemurians for a long time. We came to understand that these advanced people, and they were people, were Atlanteans, and they wanted something from the Lemurians. And when they couldn't get it, they took Jen as a prisoner and destroyed the whole civilization with these type of atomic-like devices that they set off in rifts that created these huge, massive tidal waves. And these tidal waves were not natural, but they were so huge that they were able to sink the entire continent of Lemuria. And then they took Jen as a prisoner for over 60 years, and she lived in Atlantis. So I'm going to let you hear this session. Also, keep in mind, after the whole session, I asked her subconscious, why of all lifetimes did you show, Jen this lifetime? And they said that the two of us had decided before birth or before this incarnation to get together and uncover all this information, that the world was ready for it now, and that the two of us decided before birth that we would uncover it and share it with the world because it was so important. And then I asked her subconscious, after this session, well, what is the very root cause of her brain condition? And they said the root cause was just the catalyst for her to come see me, that she would have never had a session with me without a catalyst. So then I asked if they could heal it, and they healed it for her. She went back to her team of specialists and she was healed. So here is a clip of her actual first session. Here we go. She's starting from the tidal wave. Okay? All right.
It was a tidal wave. Mm-hmm. It was an atomic type device that they set off in strategic places, in rifts under the ocean. They do have devices that operated like submarines, mm-hmm. and they placed them, acting as they were our friends. And then the wave came.
Tell me about this wave.
At first, I was with many others on the beach, mm-hmm. looking at where the water had gone. We couldn't understand where the water was pulling out from. And fish were flopping, mm-hmm. and everyone was just standing around looking, wondering. And then I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I saw the wave. And it was massive. It was the size of... It's just... You've never seen anything so big in your life. Mm-hmm. And there was a rock cliff in front of me. And I begin to climb as fast as I can climb while everyone just stands there frozen.
What about your daughter?
She's not on the beach. She's back at the palace. Mm-hmm.
And what happened next?
I make it to the top. I am still running and running and running. They want to keep me alive. They want me to see their power and how they could destroy everything as they told me they would if I didn't do what they wanted. But I would not believe them. I believed our numbers were greater and we would win. I had no idea. My child was swept into something, and the back of her head was impaled onto something sharp, and that's how I found her, face down in the water with something lodged into the base of her skull.
So you found her. When did you find her?
That was the first place I ran. I knew where she was. I don't know why I was able to outrun it and nobody else. I feel like they almost put me in like a bubble or something that made me witness it, but not really even get my feet wet.
So they did that so that you would witness it. How did you feel?
I could see as they took me away the hundreds of thousands of bodies and debris all in the water. There's nothing recognizable left. And in just a minute it was all gone. Everything was destroyed.
Where did they take you?
They take me back to their island.
Their island?
They have an island, and it's very sophisticated and very advanced.
Tell me more about that.
They are tall people. They are very pale. I think they are very ugly. They're very shrewd. Many of them have very light silvery hair. There is a very negative competitive nature on this island.
A negative competitive nature.
People are not very friendly. They are not very helpful towards each other. They're very competitive. They're just not very happy people.
They're not very happy.
No. It's a horrible place.
It's a horrible place.
For me. I was very open and free and lived amongst beautiful nature. And this is the complete opposite. It's very gray and slate and metal and concrete. And you can't really see the sun.
You can't.
Not every day.
So you said they were very advanced. What other types of inventions did they have that you can see?
They had cooking apparatus that would allow you to cook things very quickly. There was a type of energy they used to focus on the food, and you could cook it very quickly. The medical technology was truly astounding.
What type of medical technology?
They could perform full surgeries. They could manipulate organs and regrow them.
How did they do that?
They understood the usage and practicality of stem cell research and other types of medical practice that we are still not utilizing at this point in history.
So they were using stem cell research?
That was one of the bigger reasons they were able to get into the cloning of organs. So to prolong the life of the individual. They wanted to live forever.
So it was interesting. It was interesting after this session. Like I said, Jen healed herself. But I thought, if we're going to continue and to keep, actually figuring out what the story was, that I better test her for false memory. So the way I test for false memory is when I'm doing a regression on someone, if any part of their story differs, then it drives me to believe that possibly it's false memory. But every time I went back to any of these memories that Jen had, they were completely the same. So I really don't know how to, describe what she kept bringing up, other than the possibility that these are actual memories, because they were the same each time she described them. So as I was going about uncovering more of this information with Jen, this really strange phenomenon started happening in my office, where people who I'd never met started coming in for a session and recounting similar information. It would just seem like a coincidence at first, but as I've come to understand, there are no coincidences. So here's just another example of somebody else actually recounting this time period, but this is Lemuria, where Lemuria is destroyed.
Called tsunami.
Right.
And the water came in and it just pulled everything out, and there was really no warning. I was with my baby, but not my husband.
But not your husband. What happened to your husband?
I saw him, he drowned. I saw him pass me.
Did you see that before you passed?
I did.
See.
I did. I was struggling to get my head above the water, but and I looked and I saw him floating past me. And everybody and everything.
Everything.
There was so much water, I knew that I just had to relax and go with it.
So you just had to allow yourself to just go with it?
Yes.
From your perspective now, after having left that body, can you see what happened to your island?
It's just gone. It's just completely covered, enveloped it, and it's just gone. Sunken.
It just sunk. I see.
And
Where was it?
Where was it originally?
Yeah.
Oh, looking at a map now, I would say in the South Pacific.
So my clients kept confirming one another that Lemuria was located in the South Pacific, but it was humongous. I mean, these were very large continents, and Atlantis seemed to span from Europe all the way to America. And the whole coastline and globe looked so different back then, though. When people would leave their bodies and they would look at the globe, there was a lot of water and coastlines in different areas than there are now. And a lot of my clients described that Northern Africa was seen as like a lone sandbar that went from the Sphinx to Atlantis, because the Sphinx was the outpost of Atlantis, which I'll get into later. I don't think I have enough time to go through this one, but I'm going to tell you what this little video clip is. So as I was working with Jen to uncover this information, it was really surprising to the both of us that so let me back up a little bit. Since her higher self or her subconscious had said that this information is so important for us to uncover and share with the world, I wanted to start from the beginning, the very beginning of this story that they wanted us to share with the world. And I really thought that they were going to take us back to the beginning of that lifetime in Lemuria, that we were going to uncover from the very beginning information about Lemuria, and then we were going to go through Atlantis. But no, the very first part of the story that the higher consciousness or the subconscious wanted us to share was not the beginning of Lemuria. So in our second session, as I brought Jen deep under hypnosis and had her go to the very beginning of the story, she's remembering being an extraterrestrial, and she did not believe in extraterrestrial. So I just thought, oh my gosh, she's really going to think I am nuts. This is my friend. But anyway, after this session, she had a much different understanding of extraterrestrials, which she describes in full detail. Being an extraterrestrial, she remembered this other lifetime as an extraterrestrial, having to come to Earth for the very first time. It really begs the question, though, after having so many sessions, not just with Jen, but other clients who remember being an extraterrestrial, what does that mean about consciousness or extraterrestrials? I mean, from all the work that I've done, it really seems we are all one. And I'll let you listen to a little bit of this session because it's so interesting. Here Jen is describing herself as an extraterrestrial, this is someone who did not believe in extraterrestrials.
Same one-piece jumpsuit goes and covers my body up to my neck. It goes halfway up the neck and all the way down to the cuffs of my arms.
And is it all the same color?
All the same color. But I think there's a small design on it around the breast area.
What does this design look like?
It looks like a crescent moon with 3 circles next to it, within it. Not within the moon, but within the cup that the crescent makes. And that's in a slightly darker silver gray.
And this jumpsuit with the symbols, do the symbols mean anything to you?
I think it is the symbol for the space program or the exploration program. It is for the program I was involved in.
And what program are you involved in?
I feel that it is for exploration, and I feel very proud of the logo.
You're proud of it?
That I am part of this.
So that logo means you're part of it, part of that program.
I feel that it's an elite program. It is something, I look at it as, and I feel just a surge of pride within me.
Wonderful. And what are you proud of? What is it that you do exactly?
The exploration of continuing our kind is the first goal.
What happened to your kind?
I'm just going to pause it there and tell you about the rest of the this session. But if you get a chance and you want to rewind this and listen, it's really interesting because there's strange clicking sounds that happen on some of these recordings. But the clicking sound happens during important things that are said. So she just said the continuing of their kind is the first goal, almost like these strange clicking sounds are some sort of type of communication. So there was an issue with their planet. They were running out of resources, and Earth was full of these resources. But what's really fascinating to understand why this is important is what they would do with these resources is they could create almost like a new dimension, a new realm that everyone had to go into. So it was almost like a higher realm. And when you would go into this realm, what happened was, and everyone had to go into it at least once, what happened was it would shock sense into you almost. It was an enlightenment that would happen when you would travel into this realm. And you would be shown the secrets of the universe. So of course I was interested, what are the secrets of the universe? And I had to remember going into this realm that she went into, and she described the feelings of going into this realm and all of a sudden being shown the secrets. Were the secrets are that that life, every life is just a game. and that this game has been going on for longer than human beings can comprehend in the aspect of time. Because we're truly all of us, everyone walking today is part of this ancient grouping of beings that have traveled from planet to planet to see what the next experience and the next experience will bring, so that we can never stop evolving our consciousness. And we can always keep evolving this energy within all of us. And we can always keep learning. And that is the whole point of this never-ending game. And also, when they were shocked into this enlightenment, they understood that everything was almost like a figure eight, that there was no end and no beginning, that it continuously folded up on itself.